Hi, everybody. Karen Clements here, your on-site broker here at Keller Williams Premier. And so I want to introduce to you and talk to you about the general information and notice to buyer and sellers. So the real estate transaction includes many terms that may be unfamiliar to people. So we want to use the general information and notice to buyers and sellers to bring your clients up to speed on key terms and major topics that may come up during the transaction. This form can be used with residential, commercial, or farm and ranch clients. And this is one, of course, of over 130 forms exclusively for you as a member of Texas Realtors. So let's talk about general information and notice to buyers and sellers. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. General information notice to buyers and sellers is 5 pages long. Each page goes over terms and sections of the transaction that are going to be important to them. And at the bottom, the last page of the form, you will have to sign as a broker associate of the firm, and your buyers will have to sign. This document is now mandatory to have with all of your buyers' transactions, and you will present it in the very beginning stages of your introduction to your client or right before you're executing a contract. I suggest as soon as you give them the IABS that this is the one of the forms you include with that, along with your buyer's rep. Let's go over some key points that you will find in the general information notice to buyers and sellers, also known as Form TXR 1506. The first great thing it talks about is appraisal. That is most important. It talks about annexation, which is rarely an occurrence that you're going to face in a transaction, but let's talk about appraisal. It says here, an appraisal is a valuation of the property. An appraiser renders an estimate of value as of a certain date and under assumptions and conditions stated in the appraisal report. Typically, a buyer's lender requires an appraisal to verify that the loan is secured by property that is worth a certain amount. An appraisal is not the same as inspection. So it just gives them a little clarity of what appraisal means in the real estate transaction. In the section that it talks about brokers, what I highlighted here and I really love is that it stresses that brokers and agents are not inspectors, and we don't possess the expertise to conduct inspections and therefore do not make any representations, warranties, or guarantees about a property's condition. If you attend an inspection, we really don't recommend that you attend an inspection, but I get in some cases of real estate, you must attend an inspection. You cannot act like an inspector. You can advise on those things. And if you're in the room when an inspector is doing their job, we suggest that you go in the opposite room. We don't want you doing inspections for your clients or re-inspections for your clients. But this helps bridge that gap. So in the very, very beginning, you set the right expectation as to the inspections and re-inspections are not part of your job. The next section here talks about environmental concerns, general environmental issues, environmental inspections, lead-based paint, mold, oak wilt and diseased trees, comes into play with rural, and noise. We have lots of issues with mold lately. So this is a great paragraph to address that. The next page talks about expansive soils, FERPDA, flood hazard, floodways, and flood insurance. Explains to them how important flood insurance is and explains about special flood hazard areas. Historic or conservation districts, if you're shopping anywhere in the Galveston area. Talks about inspection, repairs, and walkthroughs. The buyer is encouraged to have the property inspected by a licensed inspector. The buyer should accompany the inspector during the inspections and ask the inspector any questions. Brokers and agents do not possess any special skills, knowledge, or expertise concerning inspections or repairs. Very, very important sentence. Very, very important information that the buyer should get right up front. And repairs, the buyer and seller should resolve in writing any obligation and any timing of the obligation, meaning when are you seller going to get those repairs done, and a proper time where a buyer can go and re-inspect those, not at the walkthrough. Mandatory Owners Association talks about mineral interests. Talks about the multiple listing service, very, very important how that information is in there. It's for information only. If it's not in the contract, it's not part of the deal. Says the broker or agent who provides the information from the MLS does not verify the accuracy of the information. The buyer should independently verify the information in the MLS and not rely on it. We call that information deemed not reliable. Talks about possession. Provide the seller will deliver possession of the property to the buyer at the time of the sale closes and funds, or according to a temporary lease. There may be a short delay between closing and actual funding. So it gives them some great information on the delays and what can actually happen upon closing and funding. Talks about property insurance, property values, residential service contract, home warranties, restrictions on property near an international border, school boundaries. Schools get rezoned all the time. Talks about septic tanks, square footage. I highlighted, this is a big one. If the purchase price is based on the size of the property's building and structures, the buyer should have any information the buyer receives about the square footage independently verified. Square footage information comes from other sources such as appraisal district appraisers and builders. Such information is only an estimate. The actual square footage may vary. And then talks down here, termination option. This is an important paragraph that you should be talking with your clients when you're writing that 1 to 4 family, but this is a great opportunity to discuss it way before you guys get to contract. The last page talks about tidewaters and title insurance and abstract of title. We have a lot of title insurance issues. We have one that we found a cloud that's 20 years old and the property transferred twice. How does that happen? It happens. Talks about utilities. The buyer should evaluate what utilities the buyer will require and check to be sure that the utilities are available in the area and that they suit the buyer's needs. Water level fluctuations and water wells. And then lastly, wire fraud. So as you can tell, this is a very important document. It's going to be very helpful in your business, and you will make your client a raving fan of yours. They're going to feel comfortable and confident when they write and execute a real estate transaction with you. And hey, it's all about referrals and giving great service. So read the document, understand the document, and come see me if you need some clarification on anything. So good luck, and make sure this is in with all of your buyer documents. See you soon.